Okay, Jane, it's 6 o'clock.
All right. I'd like to call the meeting of the Community Development Authority to order on Thursday, August 19th, 2021. I'd ask you to note roll.
So noted.
I don't have any additional announcements. We'll look at approving the minutes from July 29th. I'd entertain a motion to approve. Keith made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Renee. Any edits or corrections or discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Appearances. I think I have one. Don Staniforth, you want to come forward and state your name and address and make sure you turn the mic on so you get a green light.
How's that?
That's good.
Thank you. Michelle, Zach, and Ron, thank you very much for inviting me in here, and the board, thank you very much for having me here. I hope you have what I passed out, but if you will, I'm basically just going to read it along, and certainly available for any questions here, but I'd like to bring three issues to the attention of the board. First and second issues are referencing the Capital Reserve Fund for Jefferson Square. The Capital Reserve Fund is needed to fund future replacement of such things as the roof, siding, window. Sorry. How's that? Thank you. Siding, windows, furnaces, appliances, and unexpected repairs. At this time, there are 4 accounts, if I understand that correctly, and please jump in and correct me on any of this. 4 accounts that total roughly 2.7 million to manage the Jefferson Square condominiums money. I would submit that the capital reserve account should be held in one account. At the last Jefferson Square Advisory Board meeting, which was Tuesday, 8/17, I think it was the Prudential account alone had not released a 2020 year-end statement to the CDC. On 8/18, I understand the bookkeeping issue was resolved, but I have a feeling Michelle's hands are kind of tied on this, and I was hoped that the board would authorize Michelle to combine the Capital Reserve Fund into one account. I've been there 5 years and I really haven't been told what the interest has been. 1% on 2.7 million is 27,000. This doesn't reflect on Michelle. She hasn't been able to do anything, but I would like some leeway for her to do that. And with that being said, Michelle, I would task you, please. Jefferson Square should get at least an annual statement of the Capital Reserve Fund that includes interest earned. And you haven't been able to do it. The reports weren't available to you, but there's pretty significant income, and we need to know that for planning our expenditures in the Capital Reserve Fund. So please and thank you. I'd ask for some help on that. The second note, second issue has to do with the Capital Reserve Fund. The largest contribution to the Capital Reserve Fund comes from, in my opinion, correct me please, the sale or flipping of the units. At this time, there are 3 units that are awaiting clearance to make them ready for sale. I understand Michelle, Ron, and Zach have a plan that I would call on you to approve tonight. I don't know the details of it, but we have to get these units out there for people to take on the waiting list and to help the money come in and fill the reserve fund. Chutes, coils. Well, it says there chutes, coil, not coils, but PIMs. and coils will be coming up very shortly. Then if you want to make that correction, that's fine, but how long have they been sitting, I guess might be another perspective on it. And we're talking a couple of months here anyways, right? So if you want to look at the flip side of it, you know, they've been sitting longer than they should. One of the key ingredients of the plan is that the units need to have a licensed appraiser give us a realistic cost of the fair market value of each unit. A local real estate salesperson appraiser that I know with over 30 years experience told me that in his estimate, the units are being sold for 30 to 40,000 below fair market value. Again, that's money that would fit better in our capital reserve fund than DMBs or Prudentials or wherever the monies are. In 2019, the village board gave the streets of Jefferson Square to Jefferson Square condominiums to the association. I attached a copy of the transaction from September 2019 for your review. If you haven't seen it, please feel free to go through it. I feel the village of DeForest made an error by giving the streets to DeForest Jefferson or to the Jefferson Square Condominium Association. The expectation is that Jefferson Square will pay for the future repairs replacement to 700 through 734 DeForest Street and Jefferson Court. The village is hoping to have its cake and eat it too. DeForest Street is a thoroughfare. There is significant traffic on the street. It is not fair to ask Jefferson Square Association to maintain, repair, replace the village thoroughfare. If the DeForest Street is a private street, then we should be allowed to put 4 posts in DeForest Street, just as the village did. I think you can look out the window and see them there on the DeForest Street, outside the village hall. I would expect the police, fire departments and streets to weigh in on this subject. The point, though, is not whether you can drive a fire truck through the development. The point is whether or not this is a private road or not. And you know, Jefferson Court could be considered a private road, but DeForest Street is a thoroughfare. And if you want us to repair it in 20, 25 years, I don't think it's fair to ask us to do that if it's a DeForest Street. Questions, comments?
Thank you. Are there questions for Don? I think that you bring valid points for us to consider, and we'll include those in our decision-making. I think that we're going to be addressing some of these tonight in the meeting, the Prudential pieces and others. So I appreciate this, Don. Okay, any other appearances? Renee, I didn't look. Did you have a question? Okay. It's hard to see out of the corner of your eye all the time when someone's on Zoom, so it requires everyone to help me watch. All right. Keith, did you have any comments or questions? No. Okay. Okay. All right, we'll move to old business and the update regarding home buyer and rehabilitation program.
Yes, I will take that one. Thank you. I just wanted to put this on the agenda to clarify something from the conversation on this item last month. There does in fact include a provision to make what I'm putting in quotes, strong good faith effort to contribute a 25% match for the 165,000 grant we accepted. So although there's not a requirement for the organization to contribute, there are many ways in which the match can be satisfied, as are described in Rachel's memo. There's a memo in the packet on that. So I just wanted to make that clarification. There's a lot of different ways that we can get that match, and I feel confident that we can make the good, strong faith effort. We can do it from other grant funding, sweat equity is even included, and so forth. So the judgment is made at the end of the grant period, or what would be December 31st, 2022, and is used as a consideration for continued funding. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear to everyone, that that is a consideration to make, and we feel confident that we can do that. So I just wanted to make that clarification for everybody.
Okay. Questions for Michelle on that? Okay.
Thank you.
How do you think you're going to do that?
Thank you. So yes, I do think I'm gonna, what we've reviewed is the different grants that are available through foundations as well as through local programs, county programs, things like that. Probably won't be the county actually, but through other potential funding that we for sources, but I really see that it's gonna be through matching grants. Yeah,
Good,
thank you for letting me clarify.
sure. Progress update on section 18 disposition.
Yes, I just wanted to update the group that I have talked to Baker Tilly after our conversation that we had at the last meeting. I believe that was July 29th, and just clarified with them steps going forward. We had talked with Tom Landgraf, who was at the meeting, and we are going to pursue going forward with him. Zach and I have a meeting with him on Thursday. And we're going to kind of take up where we left off in a way, but also put together what I think needs to be done as a timeline for public housing section 18 disposition for what comes next, what are the steps, and what can we expect, what can you expect as the CDA. So we'll have that for you at the next meeting, but I just wanted to kind of continue that on from the last meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So you think we'll probably be ready to submit?
We should be ready. I'm going to go through that with them on Thursday, but we should be ready to submit in the next couple of weeks. I want to make sure we don't have to do another resolution to update it. So that might come in September. I'm not sure. I just need to check everything off
Okay.
with them. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, new business update regarding Jefferson Square Prudential Investment Account. Welcome.
Can you hear me with this thing on, or you want to take it off? Am I
Take it
projecting?
off.
Not
Yeah.
projecting.
Thank you.
A little better?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm Jason Kramer, Prudential Financial. So I just wanted to come and give you a very brief update as we just kind of got access and got the account moved over yesterday.
Yep.
Within the 24-hour deadline to make an update to the agenda and get me here. So I appreciate that, Michelle. I heard some questions earlier. So I will just say that the DeForest Housing Authority and Community Development Authority, it was a very intricate, deliberate, and lengthy process to get those funds transferred over from one entity to the other. That is now complete. Funds all still stayed invested, and they did quite well up until year end 12/20. Yeah, we're in 21. So just 12/31, I had $1,121,302.81. Waiting for confirmation on that. And then as of, I believe, close of business yesterday, 1,162,937.38. So
Can you say that again?
$1,162,937.38. So since inception through the end of last year, about 12.6% growth, which was fabulous. Year to date this year, 3.25. So going forward, what we have here is Michelle is the only individual able to transact on that account, and she'll do so with the commission's blessing and approval. So I'll have some more follow-up with you probably after this meeting to discuss kind of the go forward. So that's it in a nutshell. I'll probably be recommending a little bit of a rebalancing of what's in there, but nothing really extraordinary or unusual given the times.
So let me ask then, right now, they're all transferred to the CDA. We have the ability to get statements, and Michelle can move things around
Yes.
as
that's
necessary.
correct. The CDA account has been opened for quite a while. It just hadn't had the funds moved into it. And that's where kind of the, let's say the lengthy diligence took place on our corporate's end to make that happen.
And just to add to that, I verified today that all the money was moved and that I have access to the account. So one of the things I'll have to be talking to you about is access for other folks, if that's available through Prudential, so that people, the finance director, treasurer, however to handle that, but we can talk about that at
Okay.
another time. Yeah.
So at this point, if we need access or we need movement, we're going to be good to go.
You are, yep.
Okay.
That's it.
Questions?
Thanks, Jason. I actually wanted you here to talk about this because it's been a while since we looked at these accounts as far as redistributing things. Overall, I think it's doing phenomenal. There was one fund that seemed to be underperforming compared to the rest.
Government income.
And I actually lost my access yesterday when the change came over, so I couldn't look at it today.
Me too.
But that was the main reason why I wanted to talk to you about that.
Yeah,
But
okay.
thank you for everything you've done. It's been phenomenal.
You're welcome.
So we'll make sure the treasurer has access going forward.
There'll be some more paperwork for Doug to have to sign, Michelle will have to authorize and whatnot, but
I would ask Steve as finance director and Michelle as executive director, are you guys comfortable with where we are right now?
I think Steve, oh, go ahead, Steve, speak for yourself though.
I know nothing about it other than it's been transferred. I've never seen the account. Nor do I have access, so I can't say anything.
Yes, and that is very true because we just had access to it yesterday. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, at the next meeting, maybe we can hear that everybody has access that they need now.
well, they're going to limit the number of control persons on the account. That's intentional, just for, so I'd say one and maybe treasurer. But as far as the ability to see the statements, they just have to be shared by those key people, control persons or access persons.
Do the statements come in hard copy as well as online?
All electronic is what you guys signed up for initially. But you can print PDF, you can download, generate,
Okay,
share
I
here.
had just recently put Michelle's email on there so that she'll get the monthly statement.
I saw that update. So yes, thanks.
thanks, Doug. Okay,
All right,
anything else for us?
not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Ask me in a couple weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, moving along, progress update regarding the 2020 financial audit. Is that Michelle or Steve?
That's me. That's me. I just wanted to draw your attention to something that was in the packet. And for those of you who are in person today, I printed it out for you. The letter that the auditor had asked us to give, which is Baker Tilly, had asked asked me to give to every one of the commissioners, just so that they had it. And Renee, I can scan it in and send it to you separately if you'd like. And others as well that aren't with us today. But that was really just so that you were fully aware of what's going on and had the ability to contact the auditor if you would like to present any information that you had separately. And it was just a beginning of the audit type of scenario, not at the end. We started the audit for 2020 on August 9th, 2021. So they're still doing some work on that. And I am told, I checked in with them today and am told that they will have some more things for us probably at the end of next week to do. So that is what I know. I don't know if Steve knows any more, but I just wanted to make sure you had that letter in your hands and are free to talk to whoever you'd like there.
And this will be Jefferson Square
It is
only?
Both, it is both. So it is the CDA. So it is the 3 different accounts that are the redevelopment account, the Jefferson Square, and the public housing, all separate.
Okay. Questions? Okay. Next item is discussion regarding development of capital asset policy.
I'll take that one. So carry over the previous item, actually. For Jefferson Square, the capital assets, we're finding some things with them that need to be adjusted. There was a lot of history lost over the years, and the assets at the origin of Jefferson Square back in 92 through 94, we believe held by the Carrington Group and then transferred to the Housing Authority kind of through the village at 2001, I believe. So the assets are all valued as of 2001, the original assets, although they've been in existence, 6 to 8 years prior to that. So there's a lot of oddities to that. There's a lot of additions over the years that I guess we question whether they're really capital or not, the appliances, things like that. While they're good for tracking of the age of things, they really don't belong in your financial records as an asset, capital asset. So one of the things that we're working out with Baker Tilly is what is the threshold of eliminating some of these items that on the accounting records are very difficult to track, retire, value. That's been a big project for me, really, is breaking down when these gentlemen do a flip, they're taking out counters, countertops, cabinets, things like that. Well, the fixed asset records have the units as a whole. So it'll say $90,000 back in 1994. They take cabinets and countertops out. There's no way to kind of remove that original cost and bring in the new cost. So I've been working on unitizing that. And in doing that, you find items that just aren't worth tracking. So Baker Tilly said, what's your capital asset policy in defining what is truly your capital assets? I don't believe there is one. I don't think anybody has found one. The village has one. Our capital asset threshold is $5,000. We have some pretty major assets, obviously. So I'm just here in front of the commission tonight saying, are you comfortable with drafting a policy? And then probably the next meeting, we'll ask you to approve it retroactive to the beginning of 2020 so that I can go through and make all those adjustments to the books, clean them up. Baker Tilly's been really open to, since it's new to us, adjusting them in 2021. And I'd rather do it now, do it right. And not have somebody saying, why are we adjusting Steve's books in 2021 when he's no longer around? So I want him right now, correct now. So I guess I just want to feel from you folks of what you're comfortable with. If it's 2,500, is it $5,000? And generally, when you capitalize something, it's not a group, like all these tables might be, $6,000, but individually they're 500. That would not be considered a capital asset because they're individually under $2,500 or $5,000. So just get a pulse, then Michelle and I will prolifer or create a policy and bring it in front of you at the next meeting. Open for questions, comments.
So you guys are going to work on it. Do you have a recommendation that you will make in terms of an amount that a threshold?
I would say $2,500. We can start with that. And I can do that, thinking you're going to approve it. I can start cleaning that stuff up now. But there's not a whole lot of asset value there. A lot of it's depreciated.
Yeah.
But for an entity the size of Jefferson Square, I think $2,500 seems reasonable.
So while we don't have anything to approve, do we have a general thumbs up that folks can go forward and start working on a policy and looking at that range? I would say yes. Renee, are you okay with that? Thumbs up there. Keith?
Good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. This has been a big project and we appreciate all the extra time you've put into it. Discussion and potential action regarding turnover of vacant units at Jefferson Square.
Good evening. My name is Zach. I am the property manager of Jefferson Square. So, closer. Okay. So tonight I have a proposed approach to unit turnovers. A lot of this is based off what we've done in the past and sort of what we've learned over the years and a lot of the experience of Ron here, who has maintained properties for a long time from a maintenance perspective. So Sure. So in the past, we've done it more quickly. Usually, like they get out like the 31st and then the first we start working. We've had a bit of a delay here. So what we propose is just refurbing the units to a base level. And then upgrades beyond that would be on the potential residents. So the stuff like that would be appliances, flooring, and I'll address that more in a little bit. But and then we also suggest if they want to upgrade using our contractors, just to streamline the process, we already have their insurance information and we already know the quality of their work. Oh yeah, that's right. So this is, so this is an idea of just like the checklist we use. It just so you guys get an understanding of the detail we go into do this and the time we spend assessing everything and evaluating whether or not something needs to be replaced. And this also has a level of accountability. So everything is designated to either the CDA or a contractor. So you can go back and look and see who did what, if there are any issues. So I'll start with flooring. The layout on the left is a one bathroom floor plan. The one on the right is a 2-bathroom. Green indicates carpet and blue indicates hard surface. Is that right? Back one. Yep. That's right. We suggest luxury vinyl plank. It's really easy to put in. It's durable. It's completely waterproof. And if there is a water issue, it's easy to replace. And so you can see here, what we've mostly done is we suggest hard surface in the areas where it just makes sense. So the entrance area, snow and salt is an issue a lot of times, and people often have walkers and there's rugs right there that have to be set down so they don't wreck the carpet. That's a bit of a tripping hazard. The laundry room makes a lot of sense, kitchen, dining area, and then the bathrooms. And then also just all the spaces that tie these areas together. The next thing that's pretty obvious is the paint and the doors. So we paint much of it. Everything's just kind of been worn over 30 years. We do have a couple of residents that have been there almost 30 years, many more that are 10+ years. We generally paint it white. We do allow accent walls around the fireplace if they want. It's usually not a cost bump or anything. New fixtures, we suggest new fixtures just in general. A lot of the fans are worn, they squeak, they're gold, which is out of style. All the finish is wearing off. Door handles are really worn, they're sloppy. Again, the finish is worn off. Deadbolts are nice because then you can have a fresh key change so no one has previous access to it. And then we've generally moved from horizontal to vertical blinds. Just the components are easier to replace, they're a lot cheaper. And we found that as people get older, they have a harder and harder time pulling down the string to get that much weight up. So that's been kind of a nice adjustment. Windows are generally in good shape. We have the ability to replace fog panes. So if we see that they're sort of compromised, we can bring in Martin Glass usually, and they replace just the panes. The jams, we've actually found a company out of Missouri that custom makes them. They're about $250 a pop, but it's in the past we used to replace the whole window. So it's definitely a cost savings. These take about a half hour to switch out and put back in. They're extremely easy. And it's just the lag time often is the issue, but we can get those really easy. And then we refinish the sills as needed, especially in the sunrooms on the south side of the buildings, just get baked. They're often dry. We just go in and sand anything that needs to be sanded and then readjust the polyurethane and the stain if needed. We always have our local HVAC, Arts Electric, come in and do an inspection of the furnaces, and they do any preventative maintenance of the furnace and the baseboard heat. We install some of the sunrooms have an HVAC heating vent. Some of them don't. If they don't have one, just because it's a lot cheaper to run the furnace than it is the baseboard heat, we install a vent in there. And then the bath fan is often pretty worn and clogged, so we often replace those as well. The plumbing is, it kind of depends on the unit. Some of them have the cold and hot water are both softened. Some of them are just the hot water softened. So we find that in the units where both of them are softened, the faucets are in way better shape. A lot of them are dated in style though, and they're just worn. Plungers are worn, and components need to be replaced. And we actually run into that quite often. If the plunger's shot, we usually end up having to replace the whole tailpipe, which is, can be quite intensive. So we replace faucets as needed. The valve box behind the refrigerator, that is the water supply line for the ice maker, is often just a hole in the drywall. It's a nice, it's actually a square, which is nice, but we usually put in a nice trim piece and a water shut off it if it doesn't have it. And then we replace shower components as needed. A lot of these have never been done. And after 30 years, there's a cartridge element that holds the water back that just wears. They create little rivets in it and you just get drip, drip, drip. And sometimes it's worse than others. We replace those. Diverters, the bath diverters are usually pretty worn. We replace those, and then shower heads as needed, depending on if the unit's been softened or not. We suggest replacing appliances older than 10 years old. So at this point, that's anything earlier than 2010. We haven't necessarily been doing that before Ed's tenure, and we kind of evaluate them as we see fit. There are some original appliances out there where the dryer capacity is very small compared to what we have now. The washer capacity is very small compared to what we have now, and they're just really inefficient. We do a cabinet assessment, so we refinish and replace kitchen cabinets as needed. That's typically around the sink areas where you just get a lot of water. And then there's built-in hutches, it's like shelves. Those are generally in great condition, but if there's water stains or holes in them, we generally just put a new top on, which is a little time intensive, but pretty easily done. And then generally speaking, we return resident modifications to the original as necessary. This saves maintenance down the road. For instance, we recently had an instance where someone had a post out back and it was leaning poorly. Typically people don't have a post out back, but we spent the time fixing it, resinking in the ground, making sure it drained well. Putting an angle at the top so it doesn't collect water, things like that. So we generally revert everything back to the standard when we start over. We assess the exterior of the buildings. We check gutters, downspouts, flashing, and the aluminum. A lot of the boards behind the flashing and the aluminum, especially on the bottom of the units, have been just rotted out. So we probe them as needed and we contract that out. We remove satellite dishes. Those are just leaks waiting to happen. And in rainstorms and high wind storms, we've had those rip out. So as people move out, we remove any satellite dishes and we don't allow satellite dishes on roofs anymore for that reason. We do a cement assessment, nothing usually too big unless it's absolutely needed, but we'll lift anything that needs to be lifted and any cracks or gaps that have developed, we'll fill that in with a special kind of caulk, self-leveling caulk. We do a garage door assessment. Usually they're in pretty good condition and can be painted, but occasionally the bottom panes are rusted out and the cost of a new pane is 3/4 of a garage door. So we usually just end up replacing the garage door. We also do a fireplace test. Most of them work. But if they don't, we call in, Ron and I do an assessment, we do what we know what to do. And if it goes above and beyond that, we call in contractors. So typical expense drivers, the things that really start escalating the price of the turns are appliances. If we start needing to replace the entire kitchen, obviously that's a couple $1,000s. Damaged cabinets and countertops. We don't often run into countertop issues, but if the cabinets have been compromised in some way, you almost always have to do the countertops as well. So that's kind of an added cost. Tenant preferences. We've had some people move in and want to do the entire place in luxury vinyl tile. Generally that cost has been on them in the past and they get the credit of the carpet toward that. Appliance upgrades. So if someone wants a through the door water access of their fridge, they can go out and get that. One thing we've sort of considered recently though is we're kind of on the hook for that maintenance and replacement down the road. So let's say that through the door water access somehow becomes damaged or it doesn't work anymore. We have to call in our handy appliance guys, see what's wrong. We sort of have to deal with that cost. And if the fridge breaks down, often residents want the same exact fridge or the same amenities. So that usually if you get through the door water, you're up in the $2,000 range, it's close to double the cost of a fridge. So we recommend in the future just putting it pretty explicit terms in the contract that cost is on them in the future. Any upgrades above and beyond what we offer is at their cost, maintenance and replacement. The fireplace surround, there's tile there now, and a lot of people want that removed and put in stacked stone. That often adds up pretty quickly depending on the square footage. Countertop upgrades, several residents have done this on their own. after they move in, and they look great, and we haven't had any problems with that. It's often a great improvement. Window upgrades, we have had one resident replace his windows completely. They're fantastic, but you know, that's a significant cost that usually that resident sort of puts forth. And then walk-in showers. Occasionally we want someone who wants the tub pulled out, a walk-in shower instead, which is fine. We use our plumber typically, but we don't allow people to go from a walk-in shower to a tub. Just because as, again, people age, it's harder for them to lift the leg up into the tub and, you know, you end up going back to a walk-in shower anyway. So a little bit of a comparison here. Let's see if we can get this out of the way a little bit more. That's not bad. So I'm going to kind of compare some best and worst case conditions that we've had recently. The unit we're going to work on next is actually in really good condition. It's one of the better units we've ever had come up that needs to be turned. We estimate about $15,000 to $17,000 for this turnover. The flooring as proposed, as I demonstrated earlier on the PowerPoint with the hard surface and the carpet, is anywhere between $7,500 and $8,500. This is today, so this is we had our flooring guy come in and do an assessment, and the prices are today's prices, not 6 months ago, and they've risen quite a bit. Painting is pretty standard. That's about $2,500 to do the doors, the walls, the garage door, everything we need done. Light fixtures, hardware, door hardware, blinds, a toilet if necessary is about $2,500. Fridge and water heater, any water heater that's 10 to 20 years old, we try to replace because when they fail, they usually fail pretty horrifically and you get water damage. So we suggest replacing those as we turn them if they're more than 10 years old. And then the fridge. If they need a new fridge, we're talking $2,000 to $3,000, and this next unit will need one. And then just miscellaneous tasks that I talked about, the refinishing, drywall repair, the HVAC vent, all that adds up to about, I believe I see $500 here. Just double check that. Yep, 500. It's also important to note that this estimate does not include our labor at all. We've never done an in-depth accounting of how much time we spend in the units. We plan on doing that next. We're going to have a timesheet on the door as we walk in. We'll log times and we'll have a very detailed estimate of what a good condition unit took moving forward. And then on the flip side of that, we had a poor condition turn not that long ago. That was 749 Jefferson Court. That unit cost about $31,000 to turn. Again, does not include our labor. And again, we're tracking it. But that needed new counters and cabinets, new cabinets and countertops. We had to refinish the built-in top. It needed new flooring, a total new appliance package, new lighting and plumbing fixtures. It had 3 fogged windows, and we had to refinish all the sills. And there was actually extensive drywall repair from someone mistaking the gas for the break in the garage. So that all took quite a while, and all that adds up with time as well. So we're really looking for some direction moving forward. Sort of like Don mentioned, we want to get moving on these as quick as possible. Get someone in there, start getting revenue. And I've got a waiting list of 48 people just calling me weekly to ask what the status is. So I just wondered what input you guys had, what questions you had, and then any direction moving forward. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. I have lots of questions, but even Michelle's shaking her head. When we turn a unit over and let's say we spend $31,000 to $40,000, like this one unit, when we count your time, your labor, where does that money come from and how much of it gets charged to the folks who were there or the folks who are coming?
The vast majority of it was when Ed was director, there was a price increase, and we were pretty close to that increase. So he raised him about $30,000, and he was using the vast majority of that on the turns. The other thing to sort of note is the lease doesn't really do a good job of protecting us when it comes to that. Right now, as it stands, they get 50% automatically when they leave, and then they get 25% of the resale value of the place. So we put all the effort and money into fixing it up, and then they get a quarter of that when they move out, even though they technically, they paid for the rate increase, but they didn't necessarily pay for that on their own time.
So we're taking a significant loss on a turnover?
If you include our labor, we believe so, but we don't know what the labor costs are.
So technically, you're supposed to appear during appearances. So let us go through this and then we'll come back to it. I appreciate that, Ann. Other questions from committee or from? Oh, I'm sorry, Renee.
Sorry, just trying to unmute. So a question on the turnover. So you noted in your PowerPoint that it's an option for people to upgrade, but then it's their expense above that. So my question is, do you do all this work, then you're showing the place to someone, and then they might still upgrade it? Or does the person know, is there a match first and then you're doing the upgrades or the repairs or whatever's needed, so that you're only putting in, say it's an upgraded appliance, you're only doing that once?
Sure. So they have to do a $5,000 security deposit to sort of claim the residence, and that's non-refundable. And then we sort of work with them on their preferences. So nothing's been done at this point. We let them pick the carpet. If they want that countertop upgrade, they pick that themselves. Cabinets, appliance packages, things like that.
And then I think you gave an example of the person, like the gentleman who put in new windows and they're really nice. So then when that unit sells, or that unit will be turned over in the future at some point, then whoever gets that unit just gets better windows? Or is there a value put on that?
In the past, it's been pretty flat. We haven't sort of done like a unit to unit assessment and then, have $5,000 more for this unit because of the window upgrade or appliance upgrades in the past. It's just all been, for this amount of time, all these units are this price, regardless of what you get. And some are more basic than others and some are more upgraded than others.
Thanks.
Generally, if most of the people that move out have been there at least 10 years, it's pretty rare where someone is there for 2 to 5 years. Typically when that happens, they overestimate their ability to live on their own. And within 5 years, they decide they have to be in assisted living. So we generally just replace it. We've tried cleaning in the past, but often that can end up with you get carpet runs and things like that. So it's after 10 years, it's almost a given that we just replace the carpet. And then for the hard surfaces, we try to keep the ceramic tile that's in good shape. Any sheet vinyl, we pretty much automatically pull. Those have held up, better or worse over the years, depending on how many times you having to pull out the fridge or the stove for replacements. And those are the 2 floorings we probably run into most. So we try to keep the ceramic when we can, and then any sheet vinyl gets replaced with hard surface.
There's nothing written in the contract that after 10 years, say you live for 20 years, after 10 years,
There was some with some of the very original contracts, but as far as I know now, there aren't any.
That's one of our other challenges, is that we have multiple contracts. So people have different variables.
It's very individualized. Yep.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify something. So if someone has lived there for 15 years, you don't automatically go in and replace their carpet at year 11.
Correct.
So, you go back to Don Staniforth's position that we're supposed to be getting dollars into our reserves from turnovers. It's not happening.
Not how we've done it in the past. I think that's one of the reasons we've sort of had this lag time, is we want to make sure that in the future we're adding to the reserve, we're accounting for everything, and we're setting Jefferson Square up for long-term success.
So can we be in a position, and I'm asking Steve as well, to give a basic spruce up when someone leaves, much like many apartments do?
Mhm.
And then any additional upgrades people want or changes is a charge to them.
Correct. That's what we're suggesting.
Michelle, did you?
I was going to say, just kind of to Renee's point earlier, I think the sequence of things is important with when Ron and Zach kind of show a unit and the process. So when you show a unit to someone, you've done some of the cleanup, but not, anything that would be, that they would want to change or upgrade, like Renee was saying, you would do the basic. And then if they want to do something on top of that, but you're not doing something that changes something and they go, no, I didn't even want that. I want this. So that doesn't occur. We prevent that. So that doesn't occur, correct?
Right. We pretty much don't start the process until they put the $5,000 down. And it, especially with today's waiting list, there isn't a lot of time for us to get in after someone moves. And then we, start generating interest after that. As soon as they move out, I call people, they're ready to rock, and we set up a meeting usually that week. I give them a tour of the unit as is. Sometimes, residents are kind enough to let them into their unit so they can see kind of what an upgrade looks like and things like that. But we generally don't touch the place until we have the $5,000. And then, like I said, they get a lot of options for what goes in. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
So we haven't experienced any redundancy to this point. The one item that I can remember is we were moving through the process and someone decided they wanted a walk-in shower instead of a tub. Well, we hadn't touched it anyway. So, we worked with the contractors and made sure that happened for them. But so for all the ones I've been involved with, the last 5 or 6, we've experienced no redundancy during the process.
So the figure that you had when you talked about the basic upgrade, the 15 to 17,000, is that a pretty standard cost for us, or?
For a unit in good condition, I would say so. That's, the appliances don't need a ton of work. They're relatively new. It's kind of a lot up front.
I think the other factor here that we're, this is the suggested kind of turn, but the other factor we're wanting to consider here is some kind of assessment of the value or what the next amount should be. And as Renee said, if someone puts in new windows and it's going to be valued at higher than someone else's, and that maybe the cost structure of keeping them all of the same needs to change with a market assessment. So I think what we'd like to do is to say, take these at a one-on-one every time it comes up. This one, get it assessed, and then be able to have that fee. I think that's what you're suggesting as well, right?
Correct. Yeah, most of them used to just be laminate. They were all pretty much the same. Some residents have, gone ahead and put in luxury vinyl tile and wainscoting and, really nice amenities, but none of those have really come up again. But now we have more and more countertops that are granite or quartz instead of laminate. We have LVT flooring throughout and just general improvements that people have made on their own over the years. So we could definitely do that, and it would behoove us.
So we're recommending then, or you're recommending that we get our units appraised each time they come up? Or just appraising all of them?
I think it depends on the unit. I don't really see the point if we know if it's easily comparable to something else that we've had in the recent past. But if we move into a unit that we know has upgraded countertops, upgraded cabinets, upgraded flooring, we might want to get a sort of separate model for that rather than use the outdated stuff.
And when was the last time we had anything appraised?
Ed did it before he started doing the turns he was doing. So I would say three years ago. I don't know the cost off the top of my head what they were before, but right now a 1-bathroom is $164,000 for the buy-in, and a 2-bath is $170,000 for the buy-in. And then just a reminder, the monthly fee is $420 right now.
Considering your labor, you're not, will you?
Once we do 716, this will be a unit in good condition. We'll have a real good idea of how many hours each of us spend in there doing the work we need to do aside from the contractors. And we'll be able to put that into form next time.
So we have these 3 units now. If we got them appraised, would we be interested in changing those contracts then going forward?
I would suggest exploring it. I'm not really sure what other comparisons there are. They have changed 3 times. They were originally, the resident, when they move out, just gets 90% of the original cost back. Then it dropped to 75, and now we're at 75 and 25. So this is the first time we've had a 75 50, 25, I'm sorry. So
Yeah.
there was 90, 75, and then they get 50% back and then 25% of the resale.
But what I'm suggesting is that, you know, maybe it's greater than 164, maybe it's 200.
It
maybe-
likely is.
Yeah, so I'm suggesting, and I open it to the board for discussion, that perhaps we need to know that before we set a contract.
That's what we're suggesting.
And the only way to know that is to have a new appraisal done. So I would agree with that.
So perhaps what we need is a motion to instruct staff to get them appraised.
I think you should raise them one at a time. It'd be kind of stupid if you all once you don't know how long people don't live. Period. I just think you should raise as a
I think I was just suggesting that if we have a unit come up 3 months after one that was very similar, we may not need to go spend the money to have it appraised, but I generally agree.
Okay. All right. And knowing that appraisals take a while to get right now, if we were going to do that, we would need to move on it. Steve, you look like you're about to talk.
Yeah, this is quite complicated, I think. But not only are the units different, you're asking for appraisal on a life lease, not a condo for sale. The person that's coming off the waiting list is looking at this pre-flip or fix-up. They're gonna want to know what the cost is gonna be before they decide to take it. And so that appraisal is happening before you make the changes, which is difficult to do.
The other complication we have is, are we pre-upgrade or post-upgrade?
Yeah, so I don't have answers. I'm just amazed at how complicated this can be. And maybe it's just a matter of picking a unit type and saying this is going to be approximately 200,000 and see if you get the go ahead from the person on the waiting list. And they said this, you know, that's too much for me, then you move on to the next person, that type of thing.
The other option is to look at where we need to be with our reserve accounts and start backing it up. We know at some point we have a very large roof we're going to have to redo. We know we have, you know, whatever the plating is all around the buildings to replace. We know we have the upgrades within the units. I mean, you know, we know where we need to end up. And so you get a unit or two appraised so that you have comps, but you also have to start building in what do we need to get out of these reserves, or these lovely folks may be wearing umbrellas in their houses.
Right. And I think the one thing that we haven't talked about either is just common grounds. You know, the parking lots that the residents use haven't been done in quite a long time. And now that the road's been replaced, they look pretty terrible. So we have to factor in those costs long term too. We have several ash trees that still need to be taken down with the emerald ash borer going through. Trees need to be replanted. So none of that's been factored in either.
And that makes it more complicated.
Maybe what would help to make it clearer is kind of a timeline to say, here's how we go about this, to actually kind of visualize it. I don't want to wait any longer, but I think, you know, what the steps are, and then, you know, how we do things when we have the appraisal, you know, just so we don't run into some of these things that Steve's identified, that, okay, now you have to go back to the person and now that sort of thing. I think we just need to know what the exact, you know, timeline is for doing it. But we do know that we need to do some of the basic things in the units. And I do know that some of the things I had talked to Ron and Zach about, maybe even further complicating the things, I thought, well, we can just contract all the work out. And Ron looked at me like he's looking at me right now. And basically I said, you know, that you can't really contract that kind of work out, a lot of it. And so it takes their time And so we have to think, when are they going to be most available to do this work? So that's a factor in there as well. And I think that's something we could maybe after tonight, or if there could be a decision made to start doing some of these things on the turns that we know we need to do, because I think their timing is pretty good right now. And so maybe start with 716, maybe the direction is, if I may so suggest, starting with 716, doing some of the work. And then while we kind of figure out how to get that real estate appraisal, that's going to be a little complicated. So maybe it's working toward that. And then at the next meeting, we come back with kind of, here's the steps we should take going forward, so that we can at least kind of get started on 716. It's a thought. Renee's got a question.
Renee?
Just a question related to the appraisals. Is there a 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom unit that are close to or what we would like these to look like before someone would take occupancy? So I'm asking that from the standpoint of, could they appraise those 2 units based on how they look?
We do have those. We have about 8 units, 8 to 10 that have been recently redone. Not necessarily, a lot of, right, none of them are, those all have quartz or granite countertops, so that would kind of be overdoing it.
Hmm.
I can't think of a 1-for-1. Not within the past three years.
So I'm easily confused. Help me out. Your concern with the quartz countertop is that it would get a higher appraisal than those with laminate?
Right, yep. So a lot of the units that have been done, well, all of them that have been done recently had all the cabinets, all the countertops replaced, all new appliance packages. That's not necessarily what we're suggesting for a base turn.
I'm not a real estate expert, but I'm not so sure quartz countertops and amenities of that nature really affect an appraisal that significantly. I don't know. Call your wife, ask her. I know. I mean, when someone goes through your house to set a price when you're going to sell it, or the bank appraises it, they'll give that some points if you have a really unique kitchen, but.
Then yeah, we do have about 8 units that have been turned pretty recently in the past 3 years.
Renee?
Is there any reason we don't want to consider quartz or granite countertops? I mean, I know it would be more expensive, but from the appeal of, would they provide better longevity? And that's kind of the way of the world right now.
I would agree. Laminate's quickly falling out of favor. A lot of people like undermount sinks. You can't do that with laminate countertops. The base sort of countertop now is solid stone, and then upgrades from there are quartz and granite. The laminate is in good shape, so most of them, so you wouldn't necessarily have to replace them, but I agree, the standard is definitely changing.
I think the only reason I know of not doing it is just cost of turnover. And can we recoup that money in the life of the lease and get what we need in reserves?
The other thing to consider is, we estimate about $16,000 for new cabinets and countertops. And right now, there's such a lag time involved with ordering these things. And I mean, we're talking 4 months sometimes, depending on the style you want. So if we did do that, I would suggest the person doing the monthly fee in the meantime. That's not what we've done in the past. Once they move in, they start the monthly fee. But if their decisions require a cabinet 4 months out, maybe we say, at the 2-month mark, could you start paying the monthly payment?
So tonight, what you're hoping to get from us is agreement on going ahead and getting an appraisal and agreement on starting to turn over these units to get them ready, but probably at a baseline level.
there are things we could do that we know we're gonna have to do regardless. We can start drywall work. We can start replacing some of the flashing. We can remove satellite dishes. We can go through and, start cleaning, things of that nature. Window sills can be done, fogged windows can be replaced. And then, we can start on that stuff. And once we have further direction, we can bring in the resident and say, hey, what kind of carpet do you want? What do you want for cabinets, countertop, appliances, et cetera?
Okay. Steve?
Just one clarification. We keep hearing appraisal. Are we actually talking about like a market analysis or a true full out appraisal? Because those can be expensive. You're asking for somebody to sign off and all that fun work, and they take time.
Good point. Do you have a preference?
That is where I think our expertise is not, it ends right there. So we would need to have some help in knowing what exactly the best thing would be to do there. And we'd need some help there.
And I know it's not a 1-for-1, but we did recently get an email from someone who is interested in Jefferson Square. They sent us an email about Parkside, and all of their units are up over $200,000 for buy-ins. So, I mean, if you want to use that as sort of a baseline, you could, put that sort of out there, but I still think we should get them appraised.
And I might suggest that a market appraisal, if they use comps like Parkside and other life lease situations, makes some sense.
That would definitely alleviate some of our problems with reaching out as the managers and saying, hey, what does your package look like? What are you doing? How much are you charging? Things like that. We've got some resistance when we ask those questions.
Yep. Be my sense. But I'm only one. What are you thinking, Doug?
I'm in agreement. I think the more information we have, the better we can plan things in our future. I don't know how much an appraisal costs. I haven't had one in several decades. But if it's something that we can look at doing at least for a few units to get a baseline, I think it's a good starting point.
Before we,
Renee? Okay. Well, do we want to,
but before we do anything, did we want to give Ann a moment on the, no? Okay.
we have these rules that we have. Renee?
Just a question, the comment about getting pushback from other managers from other facilities. Not trying to be dishonest, but would it be helpful if one of us as a general consumer called? I mean, I'm willing to make some calls.
I don't think it could hurt.
It wouldn't hurt. It would also be something that in an appraisal they would do to go look at comps. So, yeah.
Maybe I can connect after the meeting with someone or tomorrow, just to get further direction. I'd be happy to call.
Okay.
Thank you.
So knowing that this is all murky because it has so many pieces, I think starting with a motion to secure appraisal, a market appraisal, I think, and to get some advice from an appraiser maybe in doing that and starting these upgrades is at minimum what we want to do. We want to get these units moving. But then Steve started the work already and we're backing up to see what we need to get into our reserves and how we're going to do that. And if Baker Tilly's looking at that as well. So after we get this started, then we're probably talking about figuring out a new strategy for the leases, but I don't know that we're anywhere near that tonight.
Right. I think there's a few things, if you don't mind. There's a few things. One is starting the turn work that is going to need to be done. So that's one thing. Second thing is the lease, which we can do. We can look at simultaneously. We can start looking at the lease. We can start doing the basic turn. And then the other thing is going to be that appraisal. So I think if we kind of start looking at the three of those things at the same time, come back to the next meeting, not make any major, decisions, just start the turn, look into getting an appraisal, and then also have some thoughts on the lease. And then we're going to talk in a minute about doing a workshop. So maybe that's part of it.
Okay. And would you like a motion for that, or do you have enough direction to just start that process?
I think a motion would be helpful for the record. That would be helpful. So just however anyone wants to make it, but a motion for us to kind of get going.
Okay.
I would make that motion that staff pursue a market appraisal and the other things that Michelle just talked about. I think it's good that you can start the turn with the other things right away too, so it can be done simultaneously.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Keith, second. Any further discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Okay.
What would you like me to show, Ron? Oh, sorry, go ahead if you want to do the next agenda.
I'm just not fully hearing you, Michelle.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I just was going to pull up Ron's present or whatever Ron wanted me to for his next topic.
Okay. Well, this is discussion and potential action regarding redevelopment. Oh, no, this is the electric panels.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry. At 5:09.
What do you want, looking for? What are you looking for? Yeah. I'll do it. I'll do it real quick. Here we go.
Okay, what I want to talk about today is a condition that we discovered at the 509 building. So we're switching from Jefferson Square here. And it has to do with the electrical panels that are in each apartment unit. Through a number of different sources, we found out that these electrical panels unfortunately have a condition where the breakers tend to fail a fairly large percentage of the time. And really the breaker in the electrical panel is the component that keeps your electrical system safe. Without that breaker protecting the system, it's possible to have overloads, which cause the wires to heat up and potential fire hazard. Also, there is, to a lesser extent, potential shock hazard, especially for service personnel. So that condition exists in these panels. We did the identification and the research to understand what we have and where we have them. There's a study out there by engineer that shows over the history of these 25 years that they fail quite consistently. And in breakers that have actually been exercised, meaning turned off and turned back on, the statistics show them failing 51% of the time. Which is really, really high. Like I said, the hazard is really fire hazard. And that's our biggest concern. And when we add that to a facility that does not have a fire suppression system, only has 2 smoke detectors that are integrated with the fire alarm system that would go back to the fire department. And the fact that we have a population that is disabled and elderly, we have a potential real risk here, I think. So what we're doing is really kind of laying this out for you. I have included the engineer's report. And it gives a lot of history and a lot of testing if you want the detail. We're suggesting that these panels be replaced. And this is just a situation that, like I said, we became aware of. We want to make sure the board's aware of it. We went out to 3 bidders on it. Our local company that we actually use most of the time, once they understood the scope of it, they backed out. So I used a couple of contractors that I've used in the past at other facilities that I've managed. And I got quotes on both of those. The Hill Electric quote is the better value quote, and the one I'm suggesting. And that is about just over $25,000, I think, to do the panel replacement. Along with that, we would probably have a certain amount of sheetrock repair to have to do because the panels actually have to be removed and new panels have to be put in. We can't just replace the components. So we would be planning on some sheetrock repair too. We're estimating that at approximately $5,000.
That's a big jump from 25 to 50,000.
Oh, the 2 bids. Yes, it is a big jump. Both of these electrical firms I've worked with a lot in the past, and I have high confidence in both of them. I was surprised at the difference because the higher value bid actually does a higher level of replacement than the one that is more costly. So I'm really confident that that $25,000 is a solid number.
Well, questions?
I have a question. I think that it's imperative that we act on this now that we're made aware of it, number one. Number two, is there any possibility of HUD money to help pay for any of this?
Yes, capital funds that were used the year before to do some garage work and repaving of the parking lot at 509 can be accessed again this year. And as we talked at the last meeting, the funding is not accessible. It's kind of a trend. It's not accessible right this moment, but we're working on getting it. It has been given to us, so we just have to access it. And I don't have the exact amount. Last year it was about $50,000. So we think it's going to be in that realm again. That has to be used for capital, repairs for public housing. So we would use that funding for that.
There was a lot of money out. And trying to find ways to spend.
When will we know when that money is available?
So I asked our HUD representative, I haven't gotten a reply back, but we should be able to get the information by next meeting. I just don't know for sure. It's a little hard to get answers sometimes, but we'll do my best and to do it as soon as possible. And I think this is a pretty urgent need.
I actually don't have that figure right now, but I can find that out.
So the other thing that is just, you do this and the building becomes, it's an investment in a building that we'd like to replace. But it's a safety issue and it's pretty dramatic. And if anything would go and the board said, well, let's not do it, then we have a real problem. So I understand. Well, what you need from us tonight is approval of expending this money, and hopefully it would come from HUD. Do we need to make the motion contingent on getting the dollars from HUD, or we'll just take them out of other money and do it no matter what?
If you're asking me, I think that's your decision, but I think that probably to just go forward with it.
Yeah.
It's my idea.
Yeah. So where's the board on this, Renee? Did you have questions? I couldn't tell.
No, no,
No. Do I hear a motion to approve one of these bids?
I'll make the motion to move forward with the Hill Electric bid.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
second.
We have a motion by and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That's a sobering thing.
Thank you. I think this is something we really need to do.
I think we'll be okay.
The other thing is, will it be, and this is not, will it be difficult to get into the units and get them changed and,
It's always more difficult when they're occupied. So there'll be challenges, but we'll get through them all. Sure.
and how many then? There's 36?
There's 32 in the apartments, one in each apartment, and then there's one in the boiler room. That's the easy one. Because we're not affecting anybody by changing it out. But, there will be, power will be down for certain sectors and all of those kinds of things will happen. So it is a project to manage, not just, let a contractor loose. We're going to be actively involved in it every step of the way. So.
And what about Meadow Lane? Are those units okay?
Very interesting. When they did the garages in Meadow Lane, the electricians, they had the same panels in them and the electricians would not work with those panels. They changed all the panels out in Meadow Lane. And in fact, about 2 months after those panels were changed or 3 months after those panels were changed, we had one of our tenants complaining that the breakers were tripping regularly on one of their new panels. And when we went and investigated, we realized that they had an overloaded circuit that had been overloaded for quite some time and the breakers in the original panels were not tripping. So we've experienced the failure.
Okay, good, good. All right. Discussion and potential action regarding redevelopment project plan and technical advisory committee.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to again share, I think I clicked on the wrong thing. I wanted to again share the one pager that we had, the timeline for the redevelopment project planning and for the technical advisory team. We're still in August, so that's good. We can still get a meeting set for August for this technical advisory team. So I wanted to get started on that and just see what the CDA commissioners feel about the technical advisory team. Now, the thought about it was to have it be a smaller meeting and not a public meeting, but we want everybody to be able to participate that wants to be able to participate in the public body. So if it has to be a public meeting, I wanted just to see what you all thought about that and decisions to get this kind of team going.
Okay, I know we have had a couple of volunteers already, Doug and Mike Welch and Rebecca. So I think if there are other members who want to participate, raise their hand or let one of us know. And I don't have a problem with scheduling a meeting, but I mean, it would keep us on target if we started in August, but
Yeah.
we're running out of weeks.
So what, if okay with you, what I'll do is just send one more kind of reminder, or if you want to do that, and then just say these are the days that we've got open in August, and let's kind of get together before we have our next CDA meeting so that we can have an update for that and keep going.
Okay, all right. I don't think you need it, a motion.
No, I think that's fine. If that's okay with everybody, I think that's what I want to do. I just didn't want to get it, have it fall off with all the other things we're doing.
All right. No, I'm good with that. And once we see who all's going to be on, we'll approve the membership, but, okay. And the next item is the schedule the Jefferson Square workshop.
We put this on the agenda just to see, that was something that, as I was listening to the meeting last month and taking the minutes, I realized that was something we had, that had been gotten a lot of focus at the last meeting, is maybe setting aside time to really dive into Jefferson Square. I know that the financial operations, I know that there's definitely some anxiety at Jefferson Square with the residents of wondering kind of what's going on, knowing we're looking at the timing and just wanting to say, what is the basic service fee going to be, sort of thing. So we just wanted to have a little bit of time to concentrate on that and get something done. I think what would be a good goal is to say that the fee would be changed in not earlier than January 1, 2022. 2022, yes. So anyway, that's what I was thinking. And just wanted to see what the appetite was for having a special meeting or somehow doing a workshop on it, who might want to participate, and just wanted to bring that to the chair's attention and the commission's attention.
Questions about what's going on with the workshop, or how we would structure it, first of all?
I think, and I don't know if Steve wants to share, but I think we could just have just focus on it so that we can continue with the other business at the regular CDA meetings, and then be able to focus on just Jefferson Square at the workshop, and then be able to kind of report to the CDA after that. That's my impression. And that was kind of what came out of that meeting the last meeting we had. So I just didn't want to lose it again, and wanted to see what people's thoughts were on that.
It's a big enough topic that having an individual meeting to focus on it probably would make sense. What are folks thinking?
So what do you, this is outside of the meeting we have. So this.
Yes. The-
Square or don't?
Well, that's, I wasn't thinking that it would. I was thinking that it would be just the CDA members, but it's certainly a decision of the CDA to how they wanted to do it. But it's just to kind of dive deep into, okay, here's what we have, here's the information we have. Here's what we're looking at in terms of what the monthly costs are. Here's what the fee is. Here's the delta. What is the appetite of the CDA to bridge that gap? What does that look like? And so to really be kind of a CDA commissioner kind of conversation, I would think.
I think it's, go ahead.
Just a clarification, it's a public meeting. I don't think we'd suggest Jefferson Square residents are involved.
I think at some point they certainly will be. I think it's just, we don't have enough information for that at this point. So it maybe starting with a conversation a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, and I think it's not as, I don't mean to say uncomfortable, but I think it's more difficult to talk about where the fee needs to go when folks who are paying it are involved. So we need to really look honestly at the costs and the lack of, what funds do we need to secure?
Could be anywhere. It could be here. It would be a public meeting. So I would think we would do it basically the same as we would do here. Noticed and everything. It would have to be noticed and everything.
Okay. And if you you're looking at September.
That's what I was thinking. Yes.
Okay. So do you want us to make a motion to hold the workshop and then let you figure out the date we could do a doodle poll or
I
something.
think that would be great.
Okay,
If you just leave it open and then we could figure that out, that'd be great.
okay. Does somebody want to make a motion to approve and schedule the workshop?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? I find it daunting to think about that whole topic when you think about what we need for funds and what's going to be an acceptable increase. And how do we impose that increase? It's difficult. So anyway, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, Mr. Treasurer, we have a treasurer's report.
So the report skips last month since I wasn't here. There's a little bit of a gap, but you can see by the numbers, we're sort of right in line where we've been. Does anyone have any questions on that?
This wasn't in our packet though, was it?
No, it wasn't. We show it every time, screen, that the Doug would like to do, but we don't put it in the packet.
We were talking at the meeting. Not
MVIA?
right. We can handle through DMV, correct?
Right.
So they can set the rates as far as what it is.
The MVIA rates are very low. I don't remember offhand.
I mean, if
Um,
you're at DMV, check and call, whatever they set.
Yeah, I'm not sure who sets the rates. Maybe Steve, do you know?
Yeah, if this is MVIA as in municipal variable investment account that was tied to the local government investment pool. So it's the state pool, and what DMB would do for the village anyway is they would adjust it a month behind or whatever's happening at the state, but the state return is terrible right now. It's just they're conservative investors. If the market were to start going up, it would still have bad returns because they're 90 days, 120 days out and they're investing, if not more. So nothing's earning a lot of money, but right now I don't think that's doing very well. It's not a CD. It is variable by month if they're doing it right.
The advantage is we have access to the money right away if we need it, unlike a CD.
Are there other investment vehicles that we'd have immediate access, but not a big penalty? I don't know. Probably not. Steve's shaking his head. I understand that.
Yeah, you're somewhat limited in what you can invest in. Your Prudential is doing remarkably well. But again, it's harder to get at, or you're risking taking what's hot in the market and selling it. I don't know if there's stipulations on lead time for removing money from that account. Wasn't involved in that.
I'm not sure actually either.
No.
On the Prudential money?
No,
Oh, no, not on this.
No.
Okay, so help me understand the -3958 at the total.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Doug. I'll let you do that.
Where are you looking?
On Jefferson Square, on the total, it's a -3958.
Okay, that's the difference since June 7th. So that means we're down $3,958 from where we were on June 7th.
Okay.
What it's doing is it's comparing the balance as of yesterday with the balance as of June 7th. So our prudential investment has gone up 38,507.88 since June 7th. As an example.
Questions for Doug on these reports? Do you have more, Doug?
Nope, that's it.
Seeing that there are no questions and no more report, can I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report? Keith made a motion. Is there a second? I'll second it for purposes of keeping it moving. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Thank you, Doug. Do we have additional, any more from the housing division?
Just any waiting list information you guys might want. So public housing has 23 people on the 1-bedroom wait list, 6 people on the 2 bedrooms, which are the Meadow Lane addresses. 1 person at the 509 address will be moving out. I've got a showing scheduled for the day after they are supposed to be out. We have, again, 3 units open in Jefferson Square and 48 people on that waiting list.
Wow. Wow. That talks about senior housing needs. All right. The redevelopment division, do you have more?
Nope, just wanting to get going and looking forward to it on the technical advisory team. Thank you.
Communications, I know of none. We don't have a closed session, so I would ask if there's any other business to come before this body. And if not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I can't imagine. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Renee and Rachel. Thank you for being on. Night, Bill.